We expected provincial movement on CFS after the joint AMC federal MOU, which I will table. Madam Speaker, why does the minister remember when Chief Walter Spence that he is trying to trust him? And then he pulled out the legislation provided to the Northern Authority for review. Minister, why instead of sharing the legislation with First Nations, was it shared with a non-governing body? It would have been the best time to ensure the legislation was seen by our First Nation leaders. I know it's pointless to ask how many had a hand in drafting. So, how many of the 63 chiefs actually received the customary care legislation for review?
I would just like to indicate to members, just a reminder again, that all questions should be directed through and addressed through the chair. The Honourable Minister of Families.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And reforming the child welfare system is something that our government very much takes seriously. We have had hosted with the chiefs, which, by the way, I can say the customary care legislation is supported by the MKO Grand Chief, by the SEO Grand Chief, as well as by President Chartrand and the Manitoba Métis Federation stand in support of the customary care legislation. I can tell you through our process consultations, we had summits with the Southern Chiefs organizations, with the Northern Chiefs organizations, as well as the Manitoba Métis Federation. This is good legislation. I encourage the Liberals to support this to ensure vulnerable children are protected in a more meaningful way here in the province of Manitoba.
The Honourable Member for Kiiwetinoong on a supplementary question.
Thank you. I have to say that I'm extremely guarded, but I hope the legislation results in positive change for my youngest bosses. However, not one of the chiefs at yesterday's event said they received a copy of Bill 18. I'd like to quote Ujajakusipi First Nation Chief Stephanie Blackbird. We have the right to self-determination and to use our own laws and protocols as part of the nation-to-nation relationship with Canada. We will not simply administer the laws, policies, and directives of another government. I will table that quote. Can the minister tell me what this government is doing in respect of allowing my leaders jurisdiction over our own children?
The Honourable Minister of Families.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. Before we introduced customary care legislation, we called a Leadership Council meeting, which was attended by Grand Chief Daniels from the Southern Chiefs Organization, by Chief Baker, who represented Grand Chief Sheila North from MKO, as well as President Chartrand, who saw the legislation, who asked us to bring it before the summits that are there. That's the type of consultation this government will do and will continue to do until we get and fix the child welfare system that was left by the NDP government, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Kiiwetinoong on a final supplementary.
Thank you. Grand Chief Arlen Dumas stated, one of the tools for success is for First Nations to relearn traditional parenting ways that were taken away by residential schools, the 60s scoop, the current CFS system, and the intergenerational trauma impacts of all these. A provincially legislated system will not be able to achieve this. We have to be in charge of our own children and families to make these changes happen. Communities have done so much with so much less. Perhaps it's time to let go of the control and let us demonstrate what we can do. Will this government finally be the catalyst for our inherent right to our own children?
The Honourable Minister of Families.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And ensuring that vulnerable children are protected is something. In fact, I would say this is the most serious issue we face as a government. And our government... And our government has taken this issue head on. I can tell you there's a legislative review committee that has been out. In fact, I know the member from Rossmere, a member from the House of the Chamber here has had contact with close to 15,000 individuals, or 1,500 individuals that have made comment of how we reform the child welfare system. We've worked with the legislative authorities and agencies that run the child welfare system, including the Southern Chiefs Organization, the MKO, as well as the Manitoba Métis, to get this right. We are going to do this in consultation, and we're going to get it done in a way that makes sense for our communities to keep our vulnerable children protected, Madam Speaker.